everyone. Sorry for keeping you waiting, and thank you so much for coming, and obviously thank you so much to Evanna for coming to visit us today. So today we'll be presenting her the Burke Medal for contribution to discourse through the arts. So the Hist is like a huge history of giving this medal to many different people, including like Ray Fiennes, Hilary Mantel, and including this year we gave it to Robert Sheehan, another person from your field, and also Dan Brown. And now we have the pleasure of giving you and awarding you this medal, the Burke Medal, for outstanding contribution to the arts.
Thank you.
So today Evanna will be telling us about her interest in veganism and just kind of talking us through like her ideas, and then afterwards we'll be having a very lengthy Q&A, so you can ask her about her career, especially Harry Potter, which a lot of you are probably here for. So hopefully we'll give a lot of time to that, so start thinking about questions, and Evanna is going to start her talk now.
I am. I'm just
pouring some water.
Yeah, because I know I'm going to get dry mouth and it's going to be bad. Okay. Did I get your phone?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
See,
cool, thank you. Oh, this wasn't made for a laptop, was it? Oh, good. Well, first of all, I wanted to say hello, and thank you for having me. I was really excited to, a friend of mine recently said to me, there's only one good argument against veganism. That is, I don't care about animals, their plight, or their suffering. In fact, I care so little about animals that I'm happy for us to kill them in all the worst ways possible as a great show of our superiority and dominance over all the species. To which the vegan community would say, go home, Donald Trump, we don't want you anyway. And your hair is probably 95% yak anyway, so there's that. But at first I agreed with my friend and I said, yes, I guess there's nothing to say to a person like that. There's no counter-argument to pure disdain for animals. If someone's agenda is to destroy nature, the planet, to gradually eradicate the other species, then yeah, well done, he's doing a great job. I'd move seats quickly if I was sat next to someone like that, but I could not deny that their reasoning is at least consistent with their actions. But there's actually a pretty major flaw with this argument. To think not giving a damn about animals, or even certain animals, maybe sheep, pigs, cows, grants you a pass to continue consuming animals and their secretions, would be to gravely underestimate the effect animal agriculture is having on our planet. Mostly when we think of global warming and climate change and how to prevent or delay it, we think of our energy emissions. We think we can help curb it by filling up our green bin, or taking shorter showers, or driving a hybrid car, all great things. But in fact, animal agriculture is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than all planes, trains, and cars combined. Actually, animal agriculture is the single largest contributor to every environmental ill known to humankind. So that's world hunger, deforestation, species extinction, water scarcity, land use, the list goes on. For example, with all it takes to produce meat, from raising, feeding, transporting, slaughtering, packaging the animal, etc., one hamburger is the equivalent of 660 gallons of water, or 2 months of showering. Animal agriculture is also the leading cause of water pollution and habitat destruction. And it's estimated, and this shocks me, we will have fishless oceans by 2048. As we're currently pulling 2.7 trillion fish from the ocean every year, with 40% of it being discarded as bycatch. And while all of these facts are staggering on their own, it's the rate at which we are destroying our planet that is the most sobering of all. According to environmental researcher Dr. Richard, I'm going to butcher up his name, Openladder, some clever guy. Without using any gas, oil, or fuel from this day forward, we would still exceed our maximum carbon equivalent greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2030, without the electricity sector or energy sector even factored into the equation. All simply by raising and eating livestock. And yet, even the stats telling us that we're losing hundreds of animals and insect species per day, and millions of acres of rainforest are being wiped out, even those may seem remote from our human agenda, our own personal self-interest. A quarrel vegan activists often face by critics of the lifestyle is that we have enough human problems, that people are starving in Africa, so why should we worry about the animals? Well, because we already grow enough food to feed 10 billion people, and we're feeding most of it to the livestock. 82% of starving children live in countries where food is fed to animals, and the animals are eaten by Western countries. And the animals processed do not yield even close to the amount of food they consume. According to a study led by a professor of ecology in Cornell University, didn't put his name, couldn't pronounce it, in the US every year, approximately 41 million tons of plant protein is fed to animals, while they yield only 7 million tons of animal protein for human consumption. We have enough food to feed the entire world, to eradicate world hunger, but we're feeding it to animals that we don't need to eat. There are also critics of the vegan philosophy who say that it is merely a band-aid for the big problem, capitalism, that the monster corporations make the demands and the poor workers have no other choice, and we eat what's cheapest, and it's the system to blame. They say that people adopt this lifestyle so they won't be culpable for the 70 billion animals slaughtered worldwide every year. That as a vegan, they can avert their eyes from the violence and as they're munching away on their quinoa and their broccoli, and they can feel okay about themselves. The thing is, even if this is the reason, even if it's self-motivated, even if it's a cowardly evasion of their share of mankind's responsibility for the problem, even if it is by default, the fact is that in one day, being a vegan, a person saves 1,100 gallons of water, 45 pounds of grain, 30 square feet of forested land, 20 pounds of greenhouse gases, and 1 animal's life. Whatever your relationship to animals, and regardless of the moral and ethical issues, your life is affected by the vast overconsumption of animal products. Animal agriculture is responsible for the bulk of the damage being done to our planet, much more rapidly than is irrelevant to your life. Logically, practically, it's an issue you cannot afford not to address. I just shared with you some of the reasons, not all by any stretch, why going vegan is vital to the planet. Facts that we can wrap our brains around, and stuff that you can frantically Google this evening when you're freaking out and trying to prove me wrong. These facts I shared with you are supported by scientific research. So the question changes from why go vegan to, damn, why are we not vegan? I can answer this. I know why, I get it. Because after all that, the environmental benefits of being vegan are, shockingly, not why I went vegan. And had I known them at the time, I don't think they would have been enough. I'm an actor, so I think emotionally, and I'm a human, so I relate to stories. So I want to talk to you about the real reasons I'm a vegan. I believe that killing and eating animals is a betrayal of our own core humanity. I believe that killing an innocent goes against our nature. A lot of people will actually defend meat eating on the basis that it's natural, and they classify it as natural because we've been doing it for years. They'll present the image of the rugged caveman with his spears and his furs and his will to survive, Leo DiCaprio style, eating bear liver and sleeping inside dead horses. Gross, I skipped that movie. But for some reason, people think that's the way we've always done it, so that's the way it should be. But this conveniently outmoded rationale is only really applied to meat eating. As the philosopher Montaigne says, the laws of conscience, which we pretend to be derived from nature, proceed from custom. Brushing your teeth isn't natural. Sitting on chairs isn't natural. We become civilized in every other aspect of our lives. We've renounced or revamped every single once natural practice in favor of better, more progressive and effective practices. What's actually natural for humans is evolution, to expand and progress, to revolutionize practices that no longer serve us. Why don't we renounce the one natural backward practice that is seriously harming us? And it is seriously harming us. It's physically harming us. I won't go into the myriad of health benefits of veganism right now because I'm not a doctor, but in the interest of meat being natural for our bodies, it's worth noting that carnivores do not suffer heart disease, the #1 cause of death in most developed countries. The cholesterol lions and tigers, for example, consume from the meat they eat is not stored in their body like ours. Only herbivores develop atherosclerosis, I think I said it right, from eating meat and dairy products. What was that about meat being natural to humans again? But when I say it goes against our humanity, I'm talking about the impulses and instincts we feel in the face of violence when we're young, and before society has numbed us to it. It horrifies us. It shocks us. Back in November 2014, there was a case where a teacher in a school in Nampa, Idaho, slaughtered and skinned a rabbit in front of his biology class to educate the young students on the processes of meat production, aka the truth. And there was uproar. The students were, naturally, traumatized. The parents lambasted the teacher, and he was forced to apologize, and the school issued a public apology saying, "It's not what's done here." What? Educate? Show people the means by which the food you eat 3 times a day makes it to your plate? This is what society does to us to disconnect us from ourselves, to adhere to a system powered by greed. It is all kept out of sight because it is against our better judgment. Because as children, fresh to the world, all-seeing, the horror is apparent, not dulled by cynicism or world-weariness, not obscured by selfish gain or fearful adherence to a system that will help us fit in with others, the people who'd gone before us and just not questioned. Because taking a small, quiet, helpless creature that regards you and hopes for nothing more but that you will simply let it be, and then dismantling it bloody limb by bloody limb and butchering its mangled corpse into a meal that you will eat and just as soon forget about seems drastically, absurdly, inherently wrong. Which one of you didn't watch Babe as a child and think, "I wouldn't eat that duck on the table that the animals are mourning. No, I'm with Babe." Or which of you watched 101 Dalmatians and hoped Cruella would fashion a fabulous coat out of the skins of all those frolicking puppies? No. Which of you would not be psychologically damaged if you'd been told the other side of the Disney story? That poor little Bambi was motherless and alone because you'd eaten her for tea after your dad had gone out hunting in the woods. Our natural impulses are quietened by the false marketing done by powerful figures of authority who reap the substantial financial rewards. For it's not simply your parents or your teachers that have you fooled and misled. It's much bigger than them. It is corporate greed. Somewhere along the way, someone in an ivory tower said, "Treat the animals like commodities." And the poorly paid workers were forced to do it, and the oblivious customers bought into the myth of the meat industry. The packaging with the smiling cow giving you a thumbs up, and the marketing that said, "Our chickens are, Our chickens live happy lives on sunlight-strewn pastures." And this myth was handed down and down again till nobody really knew what was going on anymore. The truth of what you're eating and endorsing was kept from you until you reached an age where enough hard knocks and painful heartbreaks had trampled the wide-eyed, open-hearted child into retirement. After they told you that Santa wasn't real, that girls and boys would break your hearts, and then, yes, sentient, harmless beings were butchered every day in their thousands for your dinner, but that there was no use dwelling on the blood spill because that's just life. In a way, you could see veganism as the eternal optimist's way of living. I think it's disappointing that vegans have a reputation as being judgmental, superior, perfectionist, often garnering an eye roll at the dinner table for the extreme principles they follow. Don't get me wrong, there are judgy, finicky vegans, and I don't like them. I get called an idiot on social media on a weekly basis by vegans who are dissatisfied with any activist who advocates for anything less than an abolitionist approach. They're mean. But what people often fail to acknowledge is that the foundation of veganism is compassion. It's seeing the suffering of others and feeling that pain and that sense of injustice themselves, and then believing they can end it. It's a completely unrealistic notion that their choices and their actions cause ripples in the enormous, vast, sprawling consciousness of the world that may disrupt the flow and change the way things have always been done. They take action so mindfully that they see their one tiny lunch order as part of a bigger movement, a growing decline in the demand for meat that will ultimately, eventually, end the consumption of animal products. The optimism of the vegan community begs the question, are you someone who settles for things the way they are simply because someone told you that's life, kid? Do you see yourself as small, your actions as meaningless, inconsequential, not that important to the rest of the world? Or are you a change maker, a leader, a thinker? Do your actions make a difference? Don't you want them to? This isn't a question I can answer for you. It's a personal perspective. But I believe it's the difference between those that have a voice in the world and those that don't mind one way or the other, and so let other people make the decisions that tell them how to live their lives. Knowing all this, having all these sobering facts and startling statistics, how will some of you still go home and cook a lamb burger tonight? How will you maintain your cognitive dissonance where the welfare and rights of animals are concerned? How will you justify this and separate yourself from all the truth bombs the vegan community are dropping? Well, I believe you will justify it because they're different. So it's okay not to care. Because we're scared of anything we don't understand. Because we separate ourselves from other beings that provoke us. Because we do not have the intelligence to behold something completely unrelatable, hairy, growling, galloping, purring, hibernating, something so unfamiliar to us, and to just let it be. Because we do not have the security in ourselves to marvel at an alien subject and not be compelled to destroy it, to conquer it, to rule it, and quickly, before it causes chaos, to cease its strange, discomforting existence. Because we do not have the openness of mind to allow that just because we don't understand something, there isn't a whole world left within it to understand. You need only look at history to realize how badly we've misjudged and how fatally we've mistreated aliens to our society in the past. Animals are just several degrees more alien than the minority groups we're prejudiced against specifically for their differences. Animals were not made for humans any more than black people were made for white or women created for men. And with each new victory for equality, our society has been enriched, our minds opened, our hearts expanded, and mankind realizes it was never that we kept these strangers on the outskirts of society because we were superior to them. We kept them from us because of an underlying fear of diversity. A fear of what will happen when something we don't understand invades our little, safe, limited world. We justify it. You're different than me. You must be inferior. It's my right to dismantle you. You were all given a perfect body. How do I know it's perfect? Because you're sitting here before me today, breathing, listening, and whether supportive or scathing of what I'm saying, you're doing just what you intended to do. Attend this debate, talk. You have full autonomy to do whatever you want or don't want with your body. If somebody reaches out and so much as strokes your hair, you know it's a violation. If somebody with ill intent puts their hand on your body, and does something to harm it, that's a crime. It's yours. It's the only one thing that is truly yours in the world. And yet, every second of the day, somebody else is reaching out and tearing somebody's body apart because of your dietary choices. And when you go to the grocery store, the canteen, the restaurant, you're paying money to fund this daily violation. Why is it okay to violate animals? I went to, this was the bit that I didn't fill in, and I said, just tell the story. Okay. I went to visit a farm in Arkansas earlier in the week. Monday, that's where I was. And because I work with a charity called Compassion in World Farming, and their mission is to end factory farming. And so we were there to help transform a chicken factory farm to a free-range farm. I saw a lot of chickens, all doing their chicken thing. I actually saw 12,000 chickens pecking and cuddling and playing as chickens do when they're left to their own devices. And then there was a point, because I was the celebrity there, they wanted to shove chickens on me and take pictures and be smiley and look at all this great work we're doing. And I didn't want to hold a chicken. I find chickens a bit freaky because they always look so worried, and they remind me of all the trauma they suffer. I feel it's really reflected on their face, so I don't like them. But I was made to hold this chicken, and it was weird at first because he didn't have all his feathers. He wasn't even a full chicken. He was a chick. who had lost all his yellow fluff and was turning into a chicken. So I could see the breast, I could see the thing that is in the fridge, and it was weird and just uncomfortable. But I picked him up and I held him, and he obviously tensed up and he started flapping and squawking, and I started flapping and squawking. he very much knew that he wasn't safe. But then the farmers told me, clamp his wings down and hold him tight and he'll and just be powerful. And I did. I held him, and it still felt like I was like restraining him, and he didn't want to be there. And then one of the vegans said, "Oh, I know a way to calm chickens," and I stroked him on the head, and he kind of sat there, and I loosened my grip on him, and he just stayed, and he was peaceful. And I realized he trusted me. He put his tiny, feathery, feeble body in my hands and relaxed into the notion that I wouldn't hurt him. And I sat there looking at him and thinking, we do not deserve your trust. You will have your throat cut in 1 week by a human not much different than I, and we will have not deserved the faith you placed in us to protect you. But I sat there with that chicken for a few moments, really absorbing the trust of this funny little creature, feeling privileged to be able to protect him for just a few minutes, and feeling how much more natural it was to care, how it's our nature to nurture and create, not exploit and destroy. That's what he reminded me of before he toddled off to a chicken cuddle party in the grass, because they do cuddle, it's really cute. I don't say any of this to shame you. To quit animal products is to go against your upbringing, your culture, your heritage, your habits, your traditions. To go vegan is to undo a lifetime of conditioning in the other direction, and the transition takes time and patience. It's not always an easy thing to remain true to your values in a society that just wants you to keep quiet and keep on disseminating the same myths that make everyone feel normal, but that keeps everyone from evolving. I merely want to urge you to check that your practices align with your principles, because there are lives on the line, and unless you investigate it, you may inadvertently find yourself supporting the kind of violence you truly revile. This talk was clearly not about how to go vegan, because trust me, that is a whole other talk, a lifetime. But for anyone contemplating making the switch, I would just most strongly advise you do it with compassion for both animals and humans, and forgiveness for yourself, because compassion is at the core of veganism. It's not about being perfect or being in the club or even about restriction and sacrifice, and this is where the bad reputation comes from, and this is what I want you to rethink. It's about reducing suffering insofar as possible. It's about compassion for all creatures, including the self, acknowledging that we are all human and by default flawed. As vegan author and activist Colleen Patrick Goudreau defines it, and I love this, which is why I'm finishing with it, veganism is conscious, compassionate, sustainable living, not perfectionism. So yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. For listening and for not heckling me. My dad told me not to heckle. And, it means a lot that you listened to a subject I care about so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I thought that was really interesting. You're such a great speaker. It's unfortunate you didn't come to Trinity and could have joined the Hist and been one of our speakers. So yeah, I'm going to open the floor to questions, so just raise your hand and Evanna and I will pick them out. So yeah, whether your questions are on the talk that just happened or on anything you want to ask about your career, feel free to put up your hands now. Okay, we've got our first question here.
So I went vegetarian when I was about 11 years old, because I think I like meat was something I always found quite disgusting, and just I didn't find it hard to give up. But veganism was really a challenge for me, and that I suppose, well, the meat thing, to answer your question, that was just something I think I always, as soon as I was told it, I was like, I don't want to be a part of that. But then, most vegetarians will find this, the longer you go at it, the more people will be like, well, why not vegan? Well, why are you not perfect? Why are you not going all the way? Why are you so half-assed? And I wanted to give an answer to them. So I read a book, which I would really recommend, called Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer. I can't say names, I'm sorry. But because he talks about, it's not just facts, he talks about, kind of that divorce from your culture and how that's sad and how it changes family meals and things like that. But yeah, he like highlighted a lot for me. Like I never understood like why can't I have milk when it doesn't hurt the cow? And the more I read, the more like I realized facts like veal is a byproduct of the dairy industry as opposed to vice versa. Those calves wouldn't be there for the meat if they weren't impregnating the cows for their milk. And also the chicks, male chicks are killed on day one in the worst way. Some of them are just thrown in the trash or ground up. And so yeah, I think I always found that sort of violence reprehensible, disgusting, and I can't imagine hurting an animal. And most people I talk to who whether they eat meat or not, they freak out about it. And I think I find it again, the whole cognitive dissonance of people that they love their puppies and people get so upset over things like the Yulin Dog Festival or Cecil the Lion, but they're fine with all the farm animals that are being killed in much worse ways. And that really bothered me, and I just think if people knew, Paul McCartney has a quote, he says, where if slaughterhouses had glass walls, everyone would be vegetarian. And I just think the more I learned about this, the more I got annoyed that people were turning away just because it was inconvenient or just because it was hard. And whenever people say that, oh, but bacon, oh, it's hard, it's like, spend one day on a factory farm pretending you're a duck, and is that really that hard, That was a rambling answer, but yeah, there's a lot of things to do.
We'll take our next question.
Thank you.
Yep, here we go. Here.
So I was wondering, I just started being vegan a couple weeks ago, so I'm still trying to figure out, changing my lifestyle. So I was wondering, do you have any favorite recipes or go-to vegan staples that you would recommend?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say a lot of things actually on this. I would say definitely do it gradually. And this is not something you asked, but it's something I would bring up because I know a lot of girls struggle with this. I had an eating disorder in the past, and so going vegan was weird for me because it was cutting out a lot of things that I had come to learn were good for me again, and that, cakes and sweets were good, and suddenly I couldn't have a lot of those because they had milk in them. So I did it really over like 2-3 years, and I wanted it to be, I would say to anyone, don't do it out of guilt, do it out of love for the animals and love for life, don't do it because you hate what's happening, because that's just inviting hatred into your heart and into your life. And I think the way to do that is to fill your life with stuff, because if you think about it, the reason that like meat is so normal and those practices is because it's all around. We just are so used to it being there, and it's life, it's nature. So we, as I say, we don't question it. So I think the thing I had to do was absolutely crowd out my mind with vegan influences. So like even on social media, I followed everything that had vegan in their name, and people are proud to be vegan, so it's easy to find them. I just followed them all. I started listening to a podcast. There's a magazine called Vegan Life, which is really amazing. I would recommend that actually, because also like a big part of it is when you go vegan, you feel left out, you feel weird, and you feel like everyone thinks of you as judgy. And as I said, it's totally the opposite of that. It's that you love harder. It's that you have more compassion for things. It's not that you're judging people or disapproving of them. So I think it's very important to have a community, and things like magazines, social media, it really helps you. And I found that the more I hang out with vegans, the stronger I commit to my beliefs, the less I'm worn down by society. And then personally, I would say, just because you asked for recipes, I love the website Deliciously Ella, and because I am someone who hated vegetables growing up, and even when I turned to vegetarian, I would say I'm a vegetarian who doesn't eat vegetables. And it was very difficult for me and my mom. Anytime we would go to a stranger's house, they would give us salad, and I would just sit there glaring at it. But her blog, actually, she went through the same thing. Starchitarians, they call them, actually, where you just eat plates of pasta. It's not healthy for you, actually, at all. But yeah, she cooks them in a way that really appreciate them, and they're not just, I think meat eaters, they're often brought up to think, oh, they're just that thing you slap on the plate afterwards, whereas she makes them the center of meals, and they're just really amazing. So yeah, I would recommend. She has a blog and she has an app, and they're awesome. Yeah, you want to dip,
I can't see you. Yeah, that person.
Yeah.
Okay, hi, great talk. So I have like a really similar backstory to you. I was vegetarian at 12, I had a baby, and now I transitioned to veganism. So I was just wondering, like, are there ever any cases where it might be better for someone to actually just go say like 95% vegan? Like, you know, the happy pair. Their philosophy is basically like, they are basically vegan, but they're not like absolutely 100%. So if like their child baked buns or something, they'll eat it. Like, what's your opinion on that? And sort of to tie in with that, what about, you know, people who will go vegetarian and then they might like cut out dairy? Like, cause a lot of people come to me and, you know, they'll say like it's really hard. And I'm like, listen, just do what you can. I don't want to be pushy, so I'm like, even if you can just like cut out meat every Monday or something,
Yeah.
that's okay, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think it comes down to like what I said in the talk, that it's about causing as little suffering as far as possible, and that means to yourself as well. So like you shouldn't be feeling so deprived or suffering, and I think you really need to make your own rules for it. A lot of people, when they go vegan, they're like, all right, give me the rule book, what do I do, what do I have to cross out, and they make it like a contest, who's the best vegan. And I did that for a while, and I had so much guilt, because I love ice cream, and for a while after, I would have ice cream like once a week, and I'd be like, I'm sorry, vegan gods. And it's like, there's no vegan gods. Like, it's just the animals. It's like as much as you can do, but if you know, you're human, and if you slip up and you don't do it 100%, like that's okay. You're still doing a lot more than people. And like, I don't actually know the stats, but Meatless Mondays like have a huge effect on the planet and the animals. They save like thousands and thousands of lives. So I think, yeah, it is just by degrees, and just not seeing it as a religion. It's not. It's just you're doing your best, and it's something. It's an ideal you want to live to. But as I say, you are also like it's all around you, and it has been your whole life of being one way. You can't just expect to be 100% vegan overnight, you know? So yeah, personally, like, I did it by degrees, and I'm still, because veganism actually doesn't just apply to your diet. For anyone who doesn't know, it's your wardrobe, it's everything. And so I started to transition my wardrobe, and like, there are things that come up like, okay, I have leather handbags, do I throw them out? And I remember I got into a real big argument with someone about it, where I was like, I'm going to sell them, and I'm going to give the money to vegan charity, and they were like, that's blood money, can't do that. And it was just like, what is the answer? Like, I literally couldn't do it right. So it's just about deciding what's right for you, and just, doing your best, and always, I think it's important to always remind yourself of why you're doing it. Like, I personally am always reading one vegan book, because if I don't, I start to get like, I start to get that cynicism that, oh, what does it really matter if I have some ice cream? I really love ice cream. Well, actually, Ben & Jerry's just have a vegan line, so I'm in luck. Is it?
It's like a vegan ice cream. I know you can get it in the.
Oh my god, so excited. But yeah, I lost my train of thought because I was thinking of cookies and cream. Sorry. But yeah, basically just it is about compassion for yourself and for the animals, and whatever you can do is better than nothing. And just, stay connected to the original reason why you did it out of love. And I think things like spending time with animals, like I go to, there's a sanctuary nearby me, and I see these animals and say, for example, like, this happened to me. Because I think you're always having to commit every single day. You're always having to be like, yes, I choose this again. I remember there was a pair of shoes that I really, really wanted, but they were made of leather. And then I went to the sanctuary that weekend, and I met a cow, and I was like, oh my God, this is your flesh, this is your skin. Screw those shoes, you know? And I got these really sassy vegan shoes, which are great. So, you just find ways of making it good for you, making it not feel like I hate that I have to give this up, more that I love animals. I love that I'm helping animals. Yeah.
I was wondering, since your main reason for being vegan seems to be animal rights, do you have any thoughts about zoos?
Zoos? I don't know. I'm skeptical about any place that profits from animals, I don't think we should be using animals that way. I do get there are, like, I can't really speak for all zoos because I've never worked there, and I know that there are people who they are real animal lovers. Like, there is a reason they're there, and it's not because they're Hitler. Although, actually, on that note, did you know that Hitler went vegan in the last few months of his life to try and prolong his life? He learned the secret. Didn't work. Sorry, that was an aside. I almost put it in my speech. I thought it was really interesting. Loads of good people too. What was I talking about? Zoos. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I personally choose not to go to them because I think profit stands before the animal welfare. Like, for example, there was that disgusting case last year in a Danish zoo where I think they had too many giraffes, so they decided to just cut one up. And they said it was for scientific purposes. It was a perfectly healthy giraffe, Mario. They even had a name for him, and they just cut him up in front of people and dissected him and said, science. It annoys me that the animals are still at the mercy of the people who are gaining from them. And I went to, in November, I had the fortune to visit a bear sanctuary in Romania, and it was such a beautiful place. Bears in Romania, they're used for, like, entertainment. They're kept in cages as exotic pets by billionaires, and they're taught to, like, dance for their food, and they're fed on just beer and bread, which is fine for students but not for bears. And they were really, really traumatized. And I remember we were walking around and we were seeing some bears, and there was, at one point we passed a cage that had a big green, like, covering over it, a big net, so that we couldn't see what was in the cage. And I was like, why is that there? What's happening with that bear? And they then said, oh, the problem is every time humans come by, that bear dances. And then I was kind of first like, I want to see a dancing bear. Like, it's a stupid part of me that forgets about it. The child that's like, oh, a dancing bear, the naive part. And but then I realized they see that as her trauma. It's not like, well, some people who run sanctuaries or zoos, they could be like, oh, she's going to dance anyway, it amuses the customers, we'll let her do it. These people felt so much for her trauma that they were like, no, we're going to put a cloth up while she processes this and she gets past this. Because she was in a cage for like 20 years and being taught to dance. And the way they teach them to dance is they put them on hot bricks. So they literally do this, and then they feed them food. So they think they have to do this. So they understood that her doing this is her reliving pain, and that was horrific. And I just came out there and I thought, that is such a beautiful thing, that the sanctuaries care so much more about, the bear's personal trauma than their own, reputation or what people say about them. And I think after that, I really was like, sanctuaries over zoos. There are zoos that can do it well, and I'm sure they teach people a lot, but I think the animals are they're usually not their first priority. So, yeah. Hi.
Shifting from animal fears to human fears, did you have any specific fears that really stood out when you started playing the role in Harry Potter?
to transition.
So funny. That was really clever. Yeah, there was no right way to make that transition, was there? Fears, yeah, absolutely. I definitely did. Because I was a huge, huge fan of the books and the movies, and I really idolized absolutely everyone who worked on those movies. They were all over my bedroom walls. They were the first thing I saw when I wake up. So it was weird to like talk to them in person. And I think, yeah, I just had the fear that I was always going to embarrass myself. I had nightmares that I was going to be fired. They would be like, "Get the fangirl out of here!" You know? they were like, "Who let her in?" I really always felt that. I was always biting my tongue because I knew way too much about them to be their friend. So yeah, just that fear of being found out, you know, of that sense of I'm a fraud, I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
They're way more qualified for me, qualified for this than me, and that I would disappoint. Actually, another nightmare. It was a just troublesome time for me. The nightmare leading up to the premiere was I really feared that J.K. Rowling would hate my performance, and that mattered so much to me. And I kept having this dream where we would see each other at the premiere, and she would just do this. And walk away. And it was so awful. But then she actually gave me a massive hug, and it was beautiful and magical and all that. So, yeah, had a lot of fears every single day, basically, but of the 5th film. But then by the 6th film, I realized my fear was holding me back a lot, and it was making me try to be perfect and not be spontaneous, which is what actors should be aiming for. So yeah, I kind of relaxed then, and that was when I made the decision. I was like, I'm going to own this, you know. They still haven't fired me. I must be here for a reason, and I love it, so I'm going to own it. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, Daniel.
Are you looking forward to Harry Potter and the Cursed Child?
I can't wait. Oh my gosh, so excited. So if anyone doesn't know, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is the play that's coming out, and it's like the sequel to the books or to the stories. I'm really excited, and about Fantastic Beasts, but I have to admit, I also have seething jealousy, because I love that I was part of them, and I'm sure you'll know, like, if you're a fan, that it was always kind of excruciating to be hearing about all these things and to be teased with the teasers, as they say, and then to not know what's going on. And when I finally got in, I was like, yes, you know, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And now they've cut me out again, so I find it very, like, it's bittersweet. Like, I love watching the trailers and the press about Cursed Child, because it's exciting to not know, and it brings back that magic, but I also feel left out. Yeah.
Do you like relate a lot to Luna? Do you know when you're saying about weakness and being about compassion as well?
Yeah.
I feel like Luna's really compassionate.
Yeah, I agree, and I think veganism is about also feeling for the underdog, for the oppressed, and wanting to kind of celebrate them and give them a voice. And I think Luna really is a champion for that kind of thing. You know, she never judges people. She always just looks at them with complete love, and that's what that's what makes her able to accept and embrace herself. So yeah, I definitely. Like, I love her. She's still an inspiration to me. And when I was younger, even when I was playing the role, I felt very odd. I felt very like I'm just too weird. I'm too different to everyone else. And especially on the set, like, they were all cool kids. They were from London. They went to drama school and things like that, you know. And I just felt very out of place, and then I had to kind of try very hard to make them like me. But then having Luna there, every time I would read her, I think she doesn't. She's so weird. She's way weirder than me. And she is completely comfortable with that. And it was such a revelation to me. It's like, oh, well, if she's allowed to do that and she's still cool as shit, she's awesome. If she can do that, then I must have that freedom as well. So yeah, it always would just make me relax and be like, you don't have to be anything more than what you are right now. So yeah, I don't know. We have differences as well, but I would say she's more like aspirational to me. She's more she's more calm and in touch with the spirit world. And sometimes I get caught in the silly human nitpicky stuff. So yeah, I definitely look to her for inspiration.
We have about another 10 minutes left, so like 2 or 3 questions. So if you want to pick some of us.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Would you rather act as Luna Lovegood or be Luna Lovegood?
Oh, that's a really good question. Wow, I've never been asked that. Do you know, there would have been a point when I would say beer, you know, and I think on the films I really wanted to, but now I feel like I'm happy in myself, and I feel like it's taken a lot of work to get to that place, as anyone who's been through puberty will have experienced, you know. It takes a while to accept yourself, and yeah, but now I'm happy with my life, and I'd love to have her as a best friend, you know. I'd love to be able to call her up and be like, let's go crumble and snorkag hunting, something wild like that, something fun. Yeah, or fashion tips from her. Yeah, I wear too much black, and she would help balance that out. Yeah, good question. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm curious that, do you think Luna is also a vegetarian, or do you want her to be one?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm really biased here. And I was thinking about this recently, because I do acting classes still, and when you know, in your character's backstory, you're always like figure out like their parents, or just what they've been through and what they like. And I realized it was a friend of mine was like, do you always make your characters vegetarian? I'm like, yeah, of course. I have to like them, you know. Well, not like them, I have to respect them. And he pointed out that that was maybe not the right way of looking at it, and I should see more colors and differences in people. And I agree with that. But I do think Luna, I just cannot see that she would be okay with that. And she's a Ravenclaw, so she is very logical, so all of the environmental stuff, all of the facts would really appeal to her, I think. And yeah, like she does become a naturalist, and I like to think she's one of those ones that isn't too sciencey, you know, that really like loves them as well. Yes, I think she would be. I think she would, but I don't think she's one that, like, you know, I wouldn't say she's an activist. I say it's just something that's part of her and that she perceives that way. Because there's also like a belief that if you believe in karma, that it's not good to eat meat because right before animals are killed, adrenaline surges into their body, and you then eat those, you know, those stress toxins, and that people say that I know I'm speaking to intellectuals here, and you're probably thinking I'm loopy, but but people say that clouds like your spiritual channels and your chakras. And I think Luna's very, very connected to those. She very much she doesn't, you know, even the fact that she believes death is not the end. She has a peaceful relationship with death. I think it's because she is connected to spirits and sees that there's more out there. And I don't think she'd be able to be that if she were just taking part or supporting this kind of violence, this exploitation.
And we had one final question here, I think.
Luna was my favorite character, just after Dumbledore, just because I never worked against Dumbledore.
Oh yeah. Do you know what? They were actually my ship for a while. And I told Jo this, and that's when she told me that he was gay. And I knew before everyone else, just saying. But yeah, I love them both.
How do you put the impact? Like, I know I love Luna so much because she was so weird, but at the same time, she was a Ravenclaw, and it was so important to me to feel like you can be on the like intellectual part of the world, but at the same time, just be yourself.
Yeah.
And do you feel any impact that the character had on people around, like when you're, for example, at the premiere, or you met fans? Did you say anything?
Yeah. I've had a few parts of that question, so I'm trying to address them all. Yeah, I would say I like that what you say of how you can be Ravenclaw and smart and still be quirky and not the most logical. Like, I love the Lovegood reason. I think it's their philosophy basically, where it's in book 7 where Xenophilius is he says something like, prove that they're not, and she's like, what? How can I prove that something exists just because there isn't any evidence that it doesn't exist? Sorry, it's really complicated. But he basically says, oh, just because I wish I had the damn book. He says that just because there isn't evidence for it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And I love that. I think that's really open-minded, and I think that, you know, they let a lot in. And I think there is a logic to what he's saying, even though, you know, it's not book smart. They're just very spiritually awake and enlightened. And yeah, to answer the other part of your question, that's something that's come as a bonus with playing the role. I didn't realize that people would be so inspired by, I guess, my portrayal or by movie Luna. Like, people say to me, I get a lot of people who've been bullied, and a lot of people who have like Asperger's, things like that, where they just feel at odds with society. They say that Luna helps them feel okay in herself, and that was like such a beautiful thing for me, because it became way more than a movie and a job, and yeah, it was like a legacy. It's a really beautiful legacy for Luna to leave, and for me to be able to kind of spread. And that's the one thing that I love about her most, and that I want to kind of promote. I just want to make people feel their weirdness is okay, you know, and to embrace it, that it's actually a superpower, you know. Once you really step into it, your differences are the things that people are most inspired by, and people are just waiting to be woken up by things like that. So yeah, that lovely message of I'm weird, but I'm okay, you know. I'm happy to spread that, and I'm glad she's such an advocate for it.
Great. I think that's a really lovely note to end on. I hope some of your questions were answered, and thank you so much again for coming today. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it. Yeah. I can't believe I didn't throw up or anything. It was quite nice. Thanks again for not being mean.
So I think we'll take one last clap, and then we'll leave, and then if you guys could let us like leave first, that would be nice, instead of crowding. And
I would just like to say, if you have any questions about going vegan or anything, just message me on Twitter, because I love talking about that, because I'm still very much on that journey, and I just like to know that there are more weirdos like me. So, and I have lots of advice and experience to share. So if you do want to know anything, just message me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much again.